Hi, welcome to another episode of Weekend Photography Lessons with me, Akshay Mehra. And today we are going to discuss about composition. Now, what is composition? Composition means making your picture visually aesthetic and more appealing to public. Now, I'll start off with horizontal positions. Make sure your photograph should be horizontally perfect. Your DSLR camera has a balance meter which makes you understand whether your camera is placed vertically and horizontally correct or not. It comes in very handy. But when you look through the viewfinder and you are trying to photograph something, make sure the horizontals are perfect and in parallel. For example, you can see this first picture of a bridge, and you can see from top to bottom the horizontal and vertically it's perfect and it's parallel. The picture is completely balanced. This is the picture of a bridge I shot in Russia, that is St. Petersburg, and you can also see the wonderful reflections which I captured in the water. Now, composition has many things like good framing and following rule of thirds. First, we'll come and talk about rule of thirds. Now, we'll talk about rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is an important and plays a key role in your good composition. Now, rule of thirds, what is this? As you can see on your side screen, vertical lines and horizontal lines. So, there are 4 intersection points in this chart. And in these 4 intersection points, these are the points which are the strongest points in your photograph. It's like composing your picture as per these 4 intersection points, that is these 4 dots, which gives the strongest details in your photograph. In short, following rule of third gives your subject room to look into or see into. Like for example, this shot of hyena in the jungle. I have placed hyena on the left side while there is ample of jungle space on the right side. This is how the rule of third plays in their importance. On the strongest points is the hyena, and the left of the space gives the hyena to look into or see into. This is how a picture is composed properly. And it tells the story also. The hyena might go towards the jungle or is waiting for something to catch up on. Now, rule of thirds is a very important factor in most of the photographs. You can follow it as a beginner whilst keeping your subject on the strongest points. Your subject should never be in the center. If you place the subject, for example, any kind of human being going on the road in the middle, it loses the point of interest in the picture and doesn't tell any story. But if you follow the rule of thirds, you place the subject on the left side or right side depending on the situation of the photograph. It gives more importance and tells the story and gives you a good photograph, visually more appealing. Now, about framing. Make sure your framing should be a really good one. Obviously, you have to follow the rule of thirds and you have to compose a good picture. Now, in the last lecture, what I told you was about the autofocus points. I told you to keep the center point as your chosen autofocus point and also one shot AF. Now one shot AF comes now in handy. For example, you are composing a picture and like for example the picture of this model which I am going to show you, I shot in my studio. I focused, my camera was on one shot AF as well as my center point was autofocus. I focused upon the eye of the model. Yes, you can definitely focus on the eyes. Take your focus on the eyes, it comes out sharp and it gives very good detail. First focus on the eye, then keeping half pressed your button, recompose your frame so that it looks visually more appealing and the picture tells a good story. This is how I shot this photograph. So better keep in mind about good framing, frame wisely, follow the rule of thirds, and you can go on shooting. Now in today's video, it will be more about examples. I'll be explaining composition to you very easily by giving you my own short photographs and telling you about each and every photograph. Now the first photograph which comes was shot at Barsana during Lathamar Holi festival, and in this photograph you can see a priest singing and towards the right, towards your image, and there is a hand in the air, folded hands in the air. Now if you see closely and wisely, this photograph tells a story. The priest is lost in the prayer and the bhakts or the people who have come around the temple are enjoying the prayer and they are devoting their soul towards the prayer. This was the essence of this photograph. That is how it was composed, keeping the priest as well as the essence of devotion of the people in mind. And if you follow the rule of thirds, this photograph is completely on the rule of thirds. It has been followed properly and it gives you a story about a priest and a devotee's devotion. Now let's go on to the second photograph. Now this photograph was a pre-wedding shot. I shot for my client about 4 years ago. This was taken at a park. You can see how the frame has been composed beautifully. On the right side it's a tree and a woman is leaning and the groom is playing a guitar, and on the left side we have named the couple very nicely so that it gives a good story, and this picture shows how romantic the couple was and also how a romantic story can be conveyed through a picture. Now third photograph, like it is a repeat example of my first point, that was keeping the horizontals. Now you need not necessarily follow certain rules like rule of third in a picture which has got reflection as well. Now if you see the bridge photograph, this bridge photograph which I shot in St. Petersburg during the night time, the bridge and the bridge's reflection in the water is perfectly balanced. So sometimes you not need to follow the rule of third also, as long as the point of interest is maintained in the photograph and it is visually appealing. Before we move ahead, let me tell you something. First of all, when I was talking about my first point, keeping the horizontals, if you make a mistake, like you compose a picture and you overlook that point of keeping the horizontals, you get a tilted frame and you think, oh okay, this can be corrected or rectified later on in the Photoshop or Lightroom. I can recompose and crop it out. That is the worst mistake anyone can make, because besides you lose your details in the photograph while cropping out and tilting your frame in the Lightroom or Photoshop, the pixels also get distorted or twisted and you lose many details in the photograph. So kindly do not make that mistake and follow the principle, keep the horizontals perfectly horizontal. Now let us move ahead with our next example. Now this is a shot of the lion which I shot in Sasangir, Gujarat Wildlife Reserve. This doesn't follow rule of thirds, but still it has rule of thirds value in it. What I mean by that is very simple. It's a very close-up shot of a lion and you can see the eyes. The eyes are very expressive because my focus was taken from the eyes. I focused my camera on the eyes, then I recomposed the shot and I took the close-up shot of the lion. That is why the eyes are so expressive and the details are so expressive in the photograph. The details are amazing. This is how you compose a shot like this. And similarly it goes for capturing your portraits or close-up shots or beauty shots. You can take the focus from the eyes and compose your shot or close-up shot or a beauty shot, whatever you want to, and then you can click the photograph. Now let us move ahead with another example of this old man who was smoking hash at a Pushkar Mela in Rajasthan. Now my main interest in this was to show the swirls of smoke from the pipe with this old man in the frame. The main focus you can see is on the smoke as well as the pipe which is in his hand, and it's a very interesting frame and it shows how the old man is enjoying his pipe during the free time at the Mela. Now let us move ahead with another example, another interesting example. This is again shot at Barsana during the Lathamar Holi. This was taken from the top view of the temple, and you can see from the left side there's a huge burst cloud of color coming and there's redness everywhere. There are lots of colors and it's a beautiful frame again, keeping everything in focus and proper framed, and it's properly timed as well. Now this is how a composition works. So you need to use your brain as well before composing any shot or framing any shot, and you have to think twice as how it will come out later on. And let me tell you the interesting part. During this festival time of Lathamar at Barsana and Nandgaon, you have to be very quick and very smart and very sharp to capture such moments. So obviously you can make use of TV mode during this period. TV mode gives you the importance of shutter speed. It's mainly focused on shutter speed. The rest ISO and aperture camera decides on what shutter speed you have kept. So you can capture these kind of events using shutter speed mode or TV mode on your camera very wisely, and you will get good composition shots and good frames like this. Now the final part of my today's lecture would be breaking the rules. Yes, of course, sometimes you need to break the rules to get a good composition or a good photograph. There are many times and many occasions when the rules don't work for you, but still you need a good picture or a good photograph, and it's not necessary at all to follow the rules once you are getting a good picture or a good photograph, because if your frame is good and your picture is coming out beautifully, it will justify the frame itself and the composition, and no need to apply the rules every time. Yes, so I'll end my today's lecture by telling you few things again. Horizontals should be perfectly horizontal. Same goes for the verticals. Verticals should be perfectly verticals once you're framing the shot. Then check your backgrounds. Background should be interesting and amazing. And fourthly, follow the rule of thirds. Once you are starting out, it gives very good composition for you. And once you have mastered the art of rule of thirds and composing a shot, you can later on apply my last rule, which is breaking the rules, and still you can get a good shot. So I'll end my today's lecture, and in next lecture we'll study more into photography and more about photography, and we'll study exposure and metering. Thank you.